Program Director, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me start by apologizing. I have a terrible bout of flu, so when I start sneezing, I think, I hope you'll forgive me. Program Director, it is indeed for me a great privilege to come and talk to you on the launching of your inaugural Women's Legacy Dialogue. Because for me it is quite encouraging, because the way the conference has been built, it really wants to focus on the needs to change and the role of women in bringing about a different outcome. And I really do think that it really takes us to the level where we want to be to say, what now? Because indeed, there is no doubt in all our minds that this government, in the past 15 years, has really made quite great strides in creating an environment for women and making sure that their voices are heard in areas which affect in areas affecting their lives. And the main challenge is, how do we really go to a next level and up the bar? I therefore wish to express my sincere gratitude to the organizers for inviting me to share with you the successes and challenges in education only a month after the World Cup, as Muhla has said, where we still feel good, positive and energized, and perhaps Muhla even the major part of the energy that South Africans still had. And we're quite hopeful that indeed with the latest offer we made last night, we will possibly have peace. Unions have agreed to go back to their constituencies to consult. For me, it is significant that this dialogue takes place in August during the Women's Month, only four days after our National Women's Day, where we celebrated our heroines, our icons, and saluted our veterans, including those who led the march. Because every time this year, we're reminded of the role that people like Lillian Ngoyi, Helen Joseph, Sophie de Bruyn, Rahima Musa, and the others played during this month. And it is a month that we also pay tribute to other pioneers who continued or sustained the struggle even after those pioneers had really created the space for us. This march, where more than 20,000 women stood against draconian past laws, made a clear demonstration that women, when they've made up their mind, they do it with utmost dedication, commitment, and women, when they've made up their mind, can be very organized and can confront even the worst enemy. But we are told that at this time, this was the first biggest march against apartheid. Even the men had not organized any protest of this level. There are all stories about how men were hiding behind to say, please don't do it, it's dangerous. But these women did it with very limited resources. I mean, there were no cell phones, cars, and I think money. But they did it the way they did it. It is due to efforts of these women, 54 years again, that we can freely gather here, as we have done today, to tackle the challenges facing us and contribute to building this non-sexist society. Let me start off by reflecting on the successes that we've made as a country, because I think it's quite useful that all the time we say, where do we come from and what is that has happened to us? We always boast about our constitution, I think rightfully so, but more important, that we can pride ourselves as South Africans, that indeed this democratic government has set up a platform where our voices can be heard. It has created an environment where we can be empowered. And I think it's one major factor that we always have to celebrate from the struggles that came before us. In 2009, the chief statistician, Padile Hohla, observed in engineering statistics, this is what he had to say: the early years of the 21st century have seen great improvements in the absolute status of women. Now I behave like Mpepho. My papers are getting mixed up. You know Mpepho? When I was a student, he mixed up all his papers. He ended up not knowing what he was saying. So at least I've been to school, I can differentiate between 1 and 2. And he said gender inequalities decreased quite substantially in a number of sectoral areas such as education and health. And as a country, we have indeed delivered on our Millennium Development Goal 3, calling for the elimination of gender parity in primary and secondary education. And as a country, we can pride ourselves to say, indeed, when we go and report in New York, we'll report that on that one, we've done very well. But on all other goals, we really are experiencing serious problems, especially around the Millennium Goal on maternal death and infantile mortality. But because I've been requested to speak about education, let me just quickly go into what the hurdles are and what is it that we're doing to confront those hurdles. Before I start, that is to really say that research has shown that 98% of young people in South Africa between the ages of 7 and 15 are involved in education programs. But as a country, also as responsible adults, we should be asking ourselves, where is this 2%? Was this 2% translated in figures? It means that more than 200,000 children between the ages of 7 and 15 that we can account for as a country. So which means that more than 200,000 South African children between the ages of 7 and 15 who are not in school, which is a problem. And hence the One Goal campaign calls upon us to find these kids and make sure that indeed they're involved in education programs. As the education department, we speculate that it could be children living with disabilities. Hence, we work very hard with organizations dealing with children with disabilities. I was addressing their conference last night in Cape Town to say, let's find them and make sure that indeed they're involved in programs. We also suspect that it will be kids come from extremely rural communities where even a pair of shoes, let alone that there are no free schools, a pair of shoes can be a problem that stops this kid from going to schools. So again, we're calling on our committees to say, let's find these 200,000 kids that we can account for, because one child out of school is just one too many. We also are saying we're making lots of progress in terms of our literacy rates through our curriculum program, though indeed we still continue to have challenges, because the majority also of people illiterate in this country are women. Because as a country we have prioritized education as an apex program, I think Program Director, it was quite fitting, that's why I was quite grateful that you did, despite the fact that I would have loved maybe to speak as the president of the Women's League, but you did ask me to come and speak in education. Because I see amongst you a team of activists who will help us indeed to make sure that education becomes a societal issue. You will join hands with us to do all the things that we need to do. I can say, Program Director, for the first time as a country, we have developed a comprehensive action plan for improving basic education, which we call Action Plan to 2014. Because through this plan, we have given ourselves a scope of 15 years to say, where should we be as a country in 15 years from now? It's a model that is used by all winning nations. Malaysia has used it and had a plan, which was a long-term plan, and say by 15 years, what is our vision? What is it that we need to do to get there as a country? India has used it, and we say as a country, let's have a set of goals that take us to the vision that we say we want to be. We are consulting on the plan. Again, I hope that all members of the society will participate and feed into the plan, which we call Action Plan 2014, but it's schooling towards the realization of schooling 2025. So despite successes that we can say we've achieved in education, which I can rattle on, but I don't think it helps if we have to talk about a legacy, because a legacy will be starting from where we think things are not working well and leave a legacy ourselves to say, when we are 80, what will we have done as this generation of women? So despite these challenges, we have also challenges including productivity in our schools, where still stability in our schools. It's one sector which is completely unstable. I can cite a number of instances every single day. If it's not this, it's that. I mean, last night I got a call that in the Eastern Cape, management doesn't want an administrator who had sent. For the past 2 years, we couldn't agree or we couldn't appoint a manager to run the department. We've been putting people in